Hi, this is Nate Schulte, and again, welcome to another episode of Discovering Battles with Nate. This past week here was actually Veterans Day, and I just want to say to all the veterans who are watching this, thank you very much for your service, and hope you all had a great Veterans Day. For this episode, we're going to be talking about a battle that took place during the Vicksburg campaign called Millkin's Bend. Now, Millkin's Bend is a very famous battle for the African Americans who fought in the Civil War. The battle took place on June 7th, 1863, and it took place just a few miles above Vicksburg and was on the Louisiana side of the Mississippi River. Now, for the commanders for this was the Confederates was Brigadier General Henry E. McCulloch, and he had 1,500 Texan troops under his command, 1,500. As for the Union, they had Colonel Herman Leib, and also they had naval forces involved in this battle too, under the command of Admiral David Dixon Porter. Now, for the Union, there was 1,061 troops. They had one white regiment and 3 African-American regiments. Now, the thing with the African-American regiments is that they didn't have much time for training, and most of them have never fought in a battle, but they were about to become one of the greatest regiments in the Union Army at this battle. What happened was we had the 23rd Iowa Infantry, the 9th Louisiana Infantry, the 5th Artillery, the 51st African American Infantry. At the center we had the 13th Louisiana Infantry, which was under the command of Colonel Leib. Then they had the 23rd Iowa Infantry and the 11th Louisiana Infantry. Now, the riverbed was very low that day, and so that was very steep. And like I stated in Hamburger Hill, that was a very, very, very steep climb, and how that could be a disadvantage to if you're the attacker. I also mentioned that on the Battle of Gettysburg with Colonel Chamberlain and his men, the 20th Maine at Little Round Top, they had the gravity on their side. But in this case, gravity was working against the Texans, and the Union could use that to their advantage. Now, but fortifications were made around here because they wanted to try to see if they could draw them out, and the Texans wanted to be able to wipe out the Union forces here. But little did they know, they were going to be in for a big surprise. Well, the Confederates gained an advantage on the left, and 2 companies retreated, but the African Americans stood firm and held their ground. While the Confederates kept attacking several times, they didn't gain an advantage at all because the African Americans were stubborn, and they knew they had to be stubborn because they lose this battle. Who knows how the battle would have ended up, and possibly Vicksburg would not have occurred. And the African Americans wanted to prove their worth of how they wanted to fight. They wanted to fight in this war. And they held them off for quite some time until all of a sudden 2 Union gunboats came to the rescue. Admiral Porter sent 2 Union gunboats, as I just stated, to Millkin's Bend. Now, if you're in the infantry, you don't stand a chance against a gunboat. That's like in today's warfare, an infantryman going up against a destroyer or even maybe possibly a battleship. You ain't gonna have much of a choice because those ships are heavily armed, and not to mention the fact they have armor, so bullets are not really gonna do much good against a cannon. So the cannons practically opened fire upon the Texans and realizing they didn't have much of a chance, the Texans eventually ended up retreating. Now the casualties for this were, for the Confederates, 44 were killed, 131 were wounded. For the Union, there were 652 casualties, and 566 of them were African American soldiers. Now this was a demonstration of how determined and the worth of African American soldiers in the Civil War. I have recently written a paper about it, and I did mention this battle here. My sources for this video are, we've got Civil War Soldiers, African Americans by Catherine Reef. And then we have War on the Mississippi, Grant's Vicksburg Campaign by John Corn. And then Forged in Battle, the Civil War Alliance of Black Troops and White Soldiers by Joseph T. Glathar. Those are my sources that I also include in my paper. For those of you who are my subscribers, I have some news that I have just recently finished college online. So I will have my bachelor's in American history, so there's some credentials now. I don't mean to brag. But I hope that you've enjoyed this lesson and of this battle. Don't forget to click like and subscribe if you wish to hear more battles. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day.